Next for you on NASA television, this is Mission Control Houston.
For Eva2, again, we translate along the station and into the payload bay to start our operations. This next video kind of shows you a bird's eye view of what the translation path will look like for in this case, Eva1. Translates underneath the space station, down along the laboratory module, across node 2, where he passes the arm, then down into the payload bay, and he meets up with Eva2 in that location there. Again, we'll start out by being in the arm, and we'll remove the nitrogen tank from the underside of the carrier. The removal of the tank requires us to first open up an MLI cover, or a thermal flap, if you will, from around the nitrogen tank, and then we'll release 4 bolts that attach it to structure. We can then slide the tank off of a rail system that normally secures it to the truss or to the hardware in the payload bay. The nitrogen tank weighs around 550 pounds. And it is roughly the size of a small refrigerator. As that work's finishing up, the Eva1 will ride the arm to the truss segment. Eva2 will spend a little bit of time installing thermal covers over the exposed trunnion pins on the Columbus module. And then he will translate out again to the P1 truss segment to get into position to help Eva1 stow that first new nitrogen tank onto the STS cart. Because it's so large, it's kind of a 2-person operation to secure that. Eva1 will then work with the arm operator to get into position to pick up the empty nitrogen tank out of the truss, and Eva2 will get into position again to help stow that onto the STS cart. Then they will make a maneuver up to the new nitrogen tank, pick it up, and bring the arm over into position for the installation. Eva1 will secure the bolts and the electrical connectors for the tank, and Eva2 will translate over to the backside to again hook up the flex lines that run to the ammonia tank assembly. They'll then work together to release the empty tank and begin its maneuver back to the payload bay for its return. During this arm maneuver, Eva2 will clean up the hardware that we temporarily installed on the STS cart, take it back to the airlock, and then he'll eventually meet up again with Eva1 back in the payload bay where the tank will be installed. Our work off of the arm for that EVA, so we'll reconfigure the foot restraint, and then we'll translate up back onto the space station and work with the 2 power cables that are part of the station to shuttle power transfer system. There are 2 cables that we'll be rerouting. One will run along the upper surface of the node 2 module and hook up to the pressurized mating adapter. The other cable runs along the port, or the starboard and underside of the Columbus module, which you'll see as we fly around here. And this will be the first EVA that we actually get to work on space station with the Columbus module installed. So it'll be an interesting perspective for the crew to work with that piece of hardware. And that'll complete our Eva2 tasks.
You were listening